Hi friends, good morning. This is Bob Hatton. I wish you a good day. I wish you God's blessing for this day. And I hope this day is going to be a special day for you. We are in the Acts of the Apostles. We're in chapter 17. We've been with Paul, so to say. We've been with Paul in Thessalonica as he came down there, and he moved on then to Berea, and then from Berea he's moved on to Athens. And he's met with some philosophers in Athens, and they've dragged him to the Areopag. That was the place where all the philosophers would meet, and they would discuss things, and they would talk about all new ideas. These guys had a lot of time to do this, and they insisted that Paul speaks to them. And they wanted to hear something new. I got the feeling that they wanted to ridicule him as well. But Paul, he's quite an educated person. He's very intellectual, as we know, and he begins to speak to the philosophers. He begins to speak to them on their level. Of course, he uses their language. He's very proficient in the Greek language, and he also knows something of their culture. And he begins to speak. He quotes the poets. He quotes some of the philosophers. He uses some of the principles that they've been thinking about. He tells them about what he's seen in the city, about this altar dedicated to the unknown God, and he speaks to them. And then he comes to the main point of his message, which is about Jesus, of course, and that God has appointed Jesus to be the judge of everyone. Jesus was raised from the dead. We will also be raised from the dead, and we have to give account of our lives. And when they heard that, well, Paul was often used for people to get him very angry with what he was saying, that there was sometimes violence involved, that they would stop him from speaking, that they would drag him from the platform that he had, that they would persecute him, that they would harm him, that they would kick him, and he'd already been stoned, he'd been whipped. He was used to that, but something happened in Athens on the Areopag that he never ever experienced before. The people were absolutely indifferent. They couldn't care less. Some said, what rubbish is this guy speaking? And the other said, maybe we could hear him, give him a second chance to present his message on another day. But the fruit that he brought in Athens, it was very, very meager. There's one man, his name was Dionysius, and a lady called Damaris. There's an indication that might also been another guy called Stephanos, but that's just a guess. His name is mentioned in one of the letters as being of the first fruit in Achaia, which Athens was in Achaia. The other places were in Macedonia, but the results were not really very good. Paul was obviously in the wrong place. Athens wasn't his pitch. Athens wasn't the place for him. He needed to move on. Now, he'd been working in Asia Minor, in the Roman province, which is Turkey today. He planted a number of churches there, and then all the doors shut. They couldn't continue working in there. And he had this dream about the man of Macedonia saying, come over and help us. So the team agreed, and they went over to Macedonia. Now, what is happening there? He went to Philippi, and there they started to plant a church. A lady with her family got saved. The jailer with his family got saved, and a girl who was demonized, she also got saved. So we got two families and one girl. And that's it. This great apostle, he couldn't do better than that. He left the city and he came to Thessalonica. He was only allowed to stay there 3 weeks, and he was chased out of the city. He didn't know what had happened. People had began to follow Jesus, but would they remain there because there was severe persecution in that city? He started to work in Berea, and he had some success there. But when the Jews in Thessalonica heard that he was working in Berea, they came over there and they kicked him out of the city as well. The brothers took him to the coast road. He went down to Athens, and in Athens he's not had very much success either. It's rather disappointing, this missionary trip to Europe, this missionary trip to Macedonia and to Achaia. Perhaps Paul didn't hear what the Lord said properly. Perhaps he'd missed it. Perhaps he wasn't following the way that God was leading him. He got stuff wrong. I don't know. The writer to the Hebrews, though, he tells us that we should not throw away our confidence. We need to persevere, because when we have persevered, when we have done the will of God, we receive the promise. So let me just encourage you, wherever you are, or whatever you are doing today. Maybe the going is tough. Maybe you're thinking, have I really heard God right? Well, I mean, you can determine that. But let me encourage you to keep on, not to give up too easily, but to keep on running the race and following your course, fighting the fight. Don't give up too easily. Paul would then leave Athens, and tomorrow we'll see that he comes to Corinth. Anyway, have a good day. God bless you, and I'll see you again. You're Bob Hatton.